George, Jukido. I see it's a lot of like the judo of today, but it's combined with atemi. It's there is a self-defense drilling and something that you would see like of old. I was watching it just today. Hideichi Nagaoka. You see, he was the attacker attacks. He blocks.
Yes.
He punches as a kuzushi and then does ukigoshi. Obviously, you don't see this in randori. What interests me is the structure of your training and how it is done exactly. Now, how do you guys do it?
Well, so we basically have the full, let's say, canon of judo in terms of throwing techniques and newaza and the katemi waza. But for example, our training is always directed. To think of it this way, sometimes people give self-defense training a hard time, like it's just back and forth. There's no resistance. And I always found that I just don't understand that thinking. I don't understand why it would need to be that way. If we learn ogoshi or haraigoshi, and at first you're not learning it with resistance, of course, right? Maybe you're going through the mechanics of the technique, and then you do your uchikomis, and then maybe you're walking backward and throwing, and then of course gradually you add more and more and more resistance. And I don't see why that's not possible with a kind of a more self-defense oriented approach, right? And so let's say we're learning ippon seiwanage, right? Instead of just doing it, and we do it from, traditional collar and sleeve, but we'll do uchikomi where the guy throws a punch and you fit in and you go. And that's our uchikomi, back and forth 10 times. Of course, at first slowly working through the mechanics of the technique, and then gradually it's full on. And then maybe you put gloves on and you just keep the progression going where, just like any other technique, you can add resistance, and gradually it goes from what you can call as kind of a loosely kata format, where it's a prearranged thing, and then you're moving into less and less predictability. And you don't have to abandon kind of traditional randori either, but randori is seen in our system as just another method of pressure testing and developing the not so much just the techniques, but the movement quality between the techniques. But the same. I think that Kano had it right, if I'm being honest. He always talked about kata and randori, and I think sometimes people think that kata has to be, and it can be, has to be like long form. You go through the entire kimi no kata, or you go through. But why can't you let's just practice this one move, and we're going to drill it back and forth. No different than me doing a jujigatami from the guard, and I just drill it over and over and over and over, and you develop those reflexes so that they're there for you, and you also you practice the form chedi, but you're not stuck by it. So just like I go for a seonage, the guy steps over and I hit him with a taiotoshi. Maybe I didn't drill that exact sequence, but because I've practiced in all these modalities, I can flow from one to the other. Hopefully that isn't too much psychobabble.
No, that's when you said the same uchikomi, but now with a strike,
right?
And then slowly you add the glove, because if I missed it, I'm gonna get hit.
Yes.
Or maybe headgear or whatever. If you look at the final chapter of Mind Over Muscle, where he talks about kata, he talks about training reflex.
Yes.
And once I read that, the first time I read it, so he's not talking about the kata that our idea of kata, the ceremonial way of presenting, like I did in front of Kawaishi. It's
right.
That was just to pass a test and show that I understood kuzushi, tsukuri, kake, and how I'm placing myself properly, following that path, the line, and that's one thing. There's like Kyoshi Murakami taught Fabio Basile. Kata is very important, but kata is kata. But it's what the teachings of kata are trying to show you. You have to understand them in order to perform it correctly. But those teachings, you take it into a more chaotic scene, which is randori, or it can be something with atemi. So he also talked about Kano. He talks about taking inflatable weapons and things made out of cloth. That means he's meaning to hit with a lot of force and not hitting the other. So
right.
he wanted to
There's a way
train.
to do it, Chetty. There's a way to do all of this, right? Like I said, you could put the glove on and headgear, and you can do it that way. But there's other ways to do it where it doesn't have to be so ballistic. Even open hand slap, right? You may have seen one of our recent videos where we're practicing knife disarming techniques, right? Some of the things that
Yeah.
get most criticized. And we go through the basic form like kata, but then we get colored washable markers, right?
Yeah.
So they come right out of the gi, they wash out, and the information is empirical. It's objective. If I got slashed, it's hard for me to lie to myself, but I didn't need to have injury. We can do this in a way where everyone can go to school or work tomorrow. But you're making it's almost, Chetty, like, and this is maybe a crude way of saying it, but there's a space between what people think kata is, right? The long form ceremonial kata, and then randori. And there's such a
Big
space
gap.
between there. Yes, that there's so much richness that can be developed, especially on the self-defense side, that yes, it's not full on. We're not knocking each other's teeth out, but it can be 70%. It can be 80% with good training partners. We'll do a drill where we create a street. It's a line of two students facing inward, kind of otogai ni, right? And then we have one person walk up and down the street, and then randomly someone will attack them, choke, headlock, knife attack. And it goes back to developing that instinct. Maybe the technique that the student performs when they walk down this proverbial street is not exactly precisely 100% the way we drilled it in kind of its kata form, but the reflex is still there. They're still able to adapt. So they have this balance between the form, the strict form of kata, but also the ju, the flexibility to adapt to the situation. And in our training, in kind of the Jukido system, the way that we approach our Goshin Jitsu, it's again, we're doing all the same techniques, but instead of having and again, we randori too, so I don't want to overstate it, but instead of having a 30-second, 40-second exchange of grips to see who's going to get a proper grip, it's straight away, hands on the neck, a headlock, someone throws an uppercut, they try to bear hug you, and we just don't have that same emphasis on this is how you strip a grip, or it's just not such a predominant part of the training. We take hold, could be overhook, underhook, collar tie, but there's not a big training emphasis on a protracted, let's say, grip battle. It's immediately from, real world scenario, a push, a punch, a knife stab, and then you see what happens.
Yeah. Also, there's something that needs to be said, just regardless of what you train. No fight on the street is guaranteed to anyone. You can be 6 dan and get sucker punched, and your head will bounce off the curb, and that's it. You're finished. It doesn't mean your training was useless. It just means that particular situation was just unpredictable and was not in your favor. Also, if you think too much about it and you watch a lot of the age-restricted videos on YouTube, your anxiety, I think, will shoot through the roof because you really never know.
Yes.
And I think with a lot of reflection and growth throughout the years, and just it's very important to detach from whatever happened to you as a kid or growing up. It's how now the way I see it is I don't think about self-defense manically like I used to. I would say 4 years ago maybe.
Right.
I see it as a way that whatever happens, I don't know, right? But what I do know is I have something in my pocket or my arsenal that I can hopefully take out and use, because most people are not armed.
Yeah.
And sorry.
There you go.
Most people are not armed, and two, most people don't know how to fight.
Yes.
Let's just be very clear. Yes, a lot of people are dangerous, but at the same time, we kind of have to be on the lookout, and we keep training till the end, basically. But at the same time, you need that little bit of confidence, saying that I can actually inflict damage. Otherwise, as Kano, I think it was Kano who said it. But if you think you're walking into a battle thinking you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Just question gun defense. Like
Yes.
Goshin Jutsu, there's I think 2 or 3 ways of gun disarming.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you guys do it?
Well, so it's the same format. We start slow with a kind of what we call a core technique, what could be called like the kata form, right? You take the weapon a particular way, just learning the mechanics, right? You just do it just pretty stationary, just learning the mechanics of the gun disarm itself. Then generally we'll add a little bit of motion and psychology. So now the person grabs you, puts the gun in your face, they threaten you, right? They're talking to you. So you have to kind of engage kind of the verbal jujitsu or judo aspect. They might push you with the firearm to the head, and then you see under a little bit of pressure, can you make it work, right? And you kind of increase that, and eventually we'll even put like training glasses on, like goggles, right? And then we'll have like a pellet gun, a pellet gun, like a little.
Yeah, those little red
Yes,
balls.
it'll hurt you, it'll sting, but it's not. Nobody's going to get injured. But again, you'll know empirically. Did you get shot? Did you not get shot? Right? And so
Yeah.
what you learn pretty quickly with some training is that you don't have to be faster than a bullet. You're not going to be fast. You have to be faster than their reaction time.
Yes.
Right? So I don't need to be faster than the actual discharge of the weapon. I need to go, hey man, do I know your mother? Boom! And then hit the guy. And then he's still processing, don't I know your mother? He's eating a strike to the chin, and then I hit him with an osotogari, take the weapon. Right? And so you learn that it absolutely is possible. Doesn't mean that it's advisable. If you can ever get out of a weapon situation, by all means, if you can run away, get away. But if there's no other recourse, it's better to have something and have trained it to, like you said earlier, there's no 100% in self-defense. But can I increase the probability of success? And
Yes.
the answer is always going to be no if you just dismiss it and don't train it.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
if you train it, it doesn't mean it's 100%. But am I more likely to survive a fire if I've trained in firefighting school than if I'm not trained in firefighting school? Listen, I might get burned alive in that fire, but the chances are better that I'll survive that fire if I've trained it over and over and over and over than if I just go, if there's a fire, you're going to die. There's nothing you can do, which is the attitude a lot of martial artists take to disarming.
That's a basic appeal to futility.
Yes.
So even like from a logical standpoint, philosophical standpoint, you can actually dismiss them, not the training.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you go, so that is an area of training that, especially in a modern, situation. And I live in the United States, right? Firearms are pretty prevalent. That again, and this is where the arguments get so frustrating because people make it such a black and white thing. Either it's kind of bullshito magical stuff that's never going to work.
Yeah, I put my finger and you just collapse.
Right. But because you can't do it in sparring, it's useless. And you go, geez, Louise, there's so much depth and richness of training that can happen in the in-between space.
Yeah. It's like I've seen a couple of videos. Untrained ladies, I'm gonna say 100%. One, he put the knife to her gut.
Yes.
Okay. And she like pushed it away, obviously survival instinct, threw a massive tantrum,
right?
Put him in the corner, slapped him, and just ran away. It's all on CCTV. The other one was absolutely crazy because there's another, and I'll talk about the different dimensions of self-defense. She just talked to him. She was like, you can always go back to God,
Right.
Jesus forgave everyone. You really do not need to know this. You do not need to do this. Right. And he was like, look, he was like, with the gun, like, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. Just open it up and give me whatever there is in there. She's like, have you ever prayed to Jesus? She was just like talking to him. And then eventually he I don't think he took anything, but he definitely didn't hurt the lady.
Yes.
And I think he just left.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Powerful. The psychological component as well.
I don't know if she was doing it like a manipulation tactic, but I don't think so. But
Listen, who knows? But you would think
Yeah,
you're that kind of stress that whatever's real is going to come out at that moment. You know?
yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
She's like, she wasn't like, oh, have you heard about Jesus? And then tried to hit, like,
Right.
blindside him. She didn't do that. She was actually, there's like a big counter between them. So she wasn't in a position to actually do something.
Yeah.
But how she handled it with words, that's what's very powerful. And I think self-defense is very, it's very vast. Let's just put it this way. So what I'll just start with something that people will not think about it. I eat healthy,
Right.
and I just exercise. I'm not saying martial art. Just go to the gym,
Yeah.
go swimming. That alone, if let's say something happened, I'm gonna defend myself. I'm in a good shape that I can actually do something. So that's one dimension to it. Add the training to it. Now I have technique.
Right.
And the chaos from Randori. Also, I'm not a clubbing guy. I'm not a bar guy.
Right.
That alone will save me so much trouble.
Yeah. That's 90% of the battle right there.
Exactly. Or I know my city pretty well, that even at 4 a.m. in the morning, I know to walk this street, but not that one.
Right.
This is all self-defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you made an analogy about exercise and eating. And years ago, we did here. I live in Florida, and in Orlando, there was an active shooting at a Pulse nightclub. And so we did kind of a basic self-defense and active shooter awareness seminar. And one of the things, the analogy, again, because people think so black and white, the analogy I used was very similar to what you just said. And I used the example of health in substitute of self-defense. So basically I said, listen, what can I say about personal health? Is it better to exercise or not to exercise? Clearly better to exercise. It's good to put some vegetables in my body, right? And get good nutrition. Does that mean that I can't come down with cancer? No, there's no guarantee. I can still come down with cancer. However, is it more likely or less likely that I'll come down with cancer? And B, even if I do, is my body in a better place, is it in a more robust place to be able to fight off the cancer? Again, that doesn't mean at the end that there's a guarantee one way or another, but you've positioned yourself through good nutrition, through good daily habits, through good rest, through good stress management, to maximize your chances of being able to fight something off if something happens. And I think of self-defense in a very similar way. There's no guarantees, 100% guarantee, but there's also no 100% guarantee that you're going to win the Olympics or do well at this tournament either. There's no guarantee, even though you're sparring all the time. So's the other guy. But what can you do to increase the chances of success?
Train more.
Train more. You're not going to increase your chances of self-defense success by training less self-defense.
Right.